Hey guys, in our last video we discussed SQL injection vulnerabilities, their common uses and some real-life examples of these attacks. In this video we'll discuss remote code and remote command executions, which are better known as RCEs. We'll discuss what they are, what they can do and some real-life implications of them. RCE stands for two types of attacks. The first is remote code execution and the second is remote command execution. Both of these attack methods are pretty similar and both of them pose a significant threat, but their ways of execution are a bit different. In a remote code execution attack, the hacker injects a script and executes it within a system's code, whereas in a remote command execution attack, the hacker can execute system commands without injecting code by elevating another vulnerability like a privilege escalation vulnerability. A remote command execution vulnerability also has the benefit of not being restricted by a coding language. But even with those differences, both of these methods usually occur due to a similar case of lack of input validation and can be executed in many different ways like injection attacks, buffer overflow attacks, or insecure deserialization attacks. All of these elements make an RCE vulnerability one of the most dangerous you can find. Attackers can exploit these kinds of vulnerabilities to disable systems, read and modify data without permission, or execute commands that were not intended to be executed. This allows attackers to cause a lot of harm, but luckily, these vulnerabilities are pretty hard to find. Let's take a look at an example of a remote code execution vulnerability. Now we're going to imagine a website that allows users to input a mathematical equation, to which the application would respond with that equation evaluated. So for example, if we were to input 5 times 5, the application would reply with 25. However, the website does not properly sanitize this input and that causes issues. And in order to understand how that causes issues, we need to take a look at how the server is going to evaluate our equation. This Python snippet shows just that. First, the application will take the user input, the equation, and it will then run eval on it. This evaluates the equation. The result is then returned, but what is this eval function? Well, the documentation says the expression argument is parsed and evaluated as a Python expression. Thus, everything that is inputted is being run as Python code. Now, how would an attacker exploit this? Well, the attacker can run any Python code he wants, so by using the following payload, the attacker can import the OS module, which allows the execution of system commands using, for example, popen in this case. This way, the attacker can execute arbitrary commands on the server. And from here on out, the options of what the attackers can do are limitless. They could potentially get a reverse shell on the server, modify files shown on the server, look for credentials to get access to databases, or even escalate further to become root on the system. And this is exactly why RCEs are the most dangerous vulnerabilities out there. That's it for today's video. In our next video, we'll have a look at a real-life example of remote code execution vulnerabilities. But in the meantime, you can find some additional materials, such as the example that we've just shown, in the description down below. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video.